Hello! Hi, how are you? Welcome to Hyped by Allison, where I will always hype you up. Wow, I've never started the video like that. I kind of like it. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and start this video out. Today, I'm going to go over something that's super near and dear to my heart, and that is preventing and treating injuries of the lower body. Being a runner, I've had many injuries of the lower body, and that is what led me to becoming a licensed physical therapist assistant. Why, you ask, that I became that? Because I wanted to treat my own injuries. It definitely kept me running and got me back into running. Honestly, I don't think I'd be as healthy of a runner as I am now if I hadn't got into physical therapy.
I've learned so much
through my own injuries. Today, I am going to educate you guys on how to prevent lower body injuries and treat them. We're going to talk about the 3 most common lower body injuries. So, if you like to do cardio, if you like to do legs, if you work out at least 3 times a week, if you are a distance runner, if you are a sprinter, you're going to benefit from this. So, the 3 specific injuries we're going to talk about that occur among active people are knee injuries, ankle, foot, plantar fasciitis, instability of the ankle and foot that will lead to like a sprained ankle, and then IT band and hip type injuries. Everything below the waist that causes you pain or causes weaknesses and compensation and prevents you from being your best self and continuing your training. We don't want these things to happen. As a runner, I've found the different things that I am susceptible to, which happen to be hip injuries. So I work more on glute stability, but I also work on ankle stability because they can kind of connect. But we're gonna go ahead and go through different ways to prevent and treat knees, ankle and foot, and hip injuries. Let's get started. The knee. The knee is supported by the quads. The quads extend the knee. If the quads are weak, the knee doesn't fully extend and the joint of the knee is not supported. One of the most important things you can do for your knees is strengthen the quads. I like to do things individually. If you strengthen things at the same time, like relying on squats, you're gonna have an imbalance among both quads. So I like to isolate the quads. The first exercise I'm gonna show you seems very basic, but it is very useful because if your quads aren't activating, your knee joint isn't supported, and therefore your knee's unstable and is more likely to get hurt. This exercise is called single leg raises, and what you do is you're gonna lie on your back, you're gonna straighten that leg, you're gonna keep that quad nice and tight. As you're lifting, the foot is slightly turned out as to isolate the VMO, which is the powerhouse of the quad. Remember, when you're lifting, you're not lifting super high because we don't want it to go into the hip flexors. You're gonna do this on both sides, and you're gonna start out with 3 sets of 12. If you feel like you can't keep that knee nice and straight, I'm gonna show you another exercise you can do that is a little bit more of a modified version. So this one is called long arc quad. For this one, you're gonna sit on the edge of a chair. You're gonna back up so the crease of your knee is on the edge of the chair. You're gonna extend one leg at a time, alternating and again tightening that quad as tight as you can get it. Each time you extend the leg. Do about 3 sets of 12 again on either side. These are the more basic exercises for the quads. If you feel like these exercises are too easy, you can add ankle weights. I would start with a 2-3 pound weight. If that is too easy, you can go up to a 5 pound weight. Be sure the exercises are being done properly, because if you are not doing them properly, you're going to cause another injury. If you feel like the weight is too heavy, go ahead and back the weight down until you feel like you're doing the exercise perfectly. These exercises shouldn't cause any extra pain. If they do, take a step back, give yourself a little bit of rest, ice your knee at least once or twice a day for 10 to 15 minutes. If the pain calms down, try out these exercises again. Start with the one that I just did, and if you have no pain with that, try that for a couple days, and if that feels good, go ahead and step it up to the straight leg raises. I'm gonna put the little routine in the description. Keep those knees healthy,
and let's move on
to the next body part. So, as a runner, I've had many hip injuries. Glutes, IT band, piriformis, TFL. I bet you guys don't know what TFL is. It's called the tensor fascia latte. It's not coffee, I promise. If your glutes are not strong, you're gonna get billions and billions of different compensation injuries. How about that? We all want compensation injuries, don't we? No. Why? Why would we? Unless we're lazy and we want an excuse to not run. or work out.
Anyways,
Hip injuries are the death of me. I was once out of running for 2 years because of this, because I never strengthened my glutes. Boy, did I learn a lesson. I used to have a flat butt. I built that butt up just for running, and now I get compliments on the aesthetics. I never thought I'd have an actual butt. But the butt is what keeps you injury-free. You might have a butt, but it might be sleeping. They call that glute amnesia. Glute amnesia happens when your butt forgets what it's supposed to do. And why does it forget? Because of these little computer chairs. Sitting at a desk all day, this butt decides to fall asleep. When you go out and exercise, that butt still hasn't woken up. So as a result, you're gonna overuse your IT band, your hip flexors, your piriformis is already tight. If you don't know what that is, a piriformis is a deep glute muscle that tightens up easily when the glutes are weak. So it compensates, tightens up, and then it's a giant knot deep in your butt. There are many ways to prevent all of this from happening. It takes a little work, but boy, is it worth it. Let's go. 2 exercises that will help prevent and treat these injuries. Okay, so the first exercise is our side-lying clam. This is more of a basic exercise. You can eventually add resistance to it. You are going to be lying on your side with your knees slightly bent and your body in a flex position. Your knees and feet are together, but you're going to lift your knee up to activate your lateral glute, keeping your feet together. So basically, you look like a clam as the knee is coming up and down. Nice and slow, nice and controlled, not letting your hips rock back, keeping the side of your body lined up with the ceiling. As you get stronger, add a resistance band up above your knees. The resistance bands I recommend are the loop TheraBands. That will add a little more resistance. You can also add reps and sets. Start out with this. Make sure you feel that glute activating. If you do, that's great. If you don't, keep trying to make sure your form is correct. Sometimes it takes time for that glute to awaken. Like I said, amnesia. It's like forgetting something. Your brain's forgetting something. With this, your booty's forgetting something. On to the next exercise. This one is a little step up from the clams, but I recommend doing this following the clams. So the clams allow your glute to warm up. The next one is called Sidelying Abduction. You're going to be lying on your side. Your bottom leg is going to be bent, top is straight, and making sure that your hips don't rock back. You're going to lift the leg up and slightly back, turn your toes slightly down, and as you lift, you're going to feel the outside of your butt work. As you get stronger and you feel that glute working, you can add more reps and sets. You can also add an ankle weight. And again, starting with a lower ankle weight and building up as you get stronger, because if your glute gets too tired, it can't lift the heavy weight you put on your ankle, guess what's gonna jump in and get hurt again, just like it does when you're out there running or doing cardio. Make sure to build nice and slow. Another thing y'all can do to treat and prevent hip, IT band, TFL, all the things I've been talking about, injuries, is keep the glutes, IT band nice and loose. If you're training a lot, overuse can affect the best and strongest of us. I often use a lacrosse ball, and that helps roll out my hips. And I also use, for the IT band, a handy dandy foam roll. I will demonstrate how I like to use this lacrosse ball. It basically isolates things more so than a foam roll. This one works better for the IT band because it's just a long band of fascia. Let's get into it. I'm going to show you how to loosen up knots and tight glutes and hips, and this one I'm going to show you how to use it for the IT band. So you're going to find the spot on your glutes that you feel is the tightest, and you're going to place the ball on it. You're going to sit on it, slowly roll until you find the best area of trigger point. Then you're going to focus in on that spot for about 30 seconds and no longer than a minute. When you come off the ball, you should feel a little bit more mobility through the area that was previously very, very tight. Sometimes I will cross one leg over the other and turn it into a nice figure 4 position. As a result, I'm able to mobilize more of the muscle because it is in a specific position that exposes more of that external rotator. Now I'm going to use the handy dandy foam roller to roll out my IT band, making sure it is nice and loose for whatever activity I am doing. I am going to cross the top leg over the bottom and roll up and down on the side of my leg, feeling the tightness releasing as I go from the hip bone down to the outside of the knee. Make sure you don't roll over the knee joint or the hip bone because that would just not feel very good. Another way you can use this foam roll is you can use it to roll out the hip flexors. The hip flexors are a common compensator. I'm kind of putting my weight into my right hip flexor, and I can also switch to the left. I can even do them at the same time. You can even use it for the quads and roll down just a little bit lower. The last body part we are going to talk about that gets injured among active, fitness going, and running individuals is the ankle and foot. The ankle and foot are so important to everyday life, even more important for those that are super active. If your ankle and foot are weak, that will lead to so many other problems. You want to be sure that you have some good supportive shoes. If you're going to be running several times a week, you want to go to a running store and have them analyze your gait and make sure that the shoe that you are wearing is correct for the type of foot you have. Everyone has different arches, different gait. If you don't have the correct shoe that is specific to your needs, there is a higher chance to get hurt. So make sure you got some good shoes on those feet. We're gonna go ahead and get into the strengthening exercises. The first one is the 3-way ankle. You're gonna need a nice stretchy TheraBand and somewhere good to sit. You're gonna make sure that you hang your heel off the edge of wherever you're sitting. In this case, I use my couch. You can use your bed. You just want to make sure your heel is free to move. We're going to start with plantar flexion. You're going to have that band wrapped around your foot. You're going to be resisting towards your body, and as you point that foot down, you're going to feel that resistance. This exercise is specifically strengthening the calf. So with 3-way ankle, we're working on strengthening the calf, peroneals, and posterior tibialis. Time to strengthen the peroneals. We're going to put the band around the foot. We're going to strengthen, cross the other leg over for resistance, and as you can see, externally rotate that foot against the resistance, and you should feel the peroneals working. Time to strengthen the posterior tibialis. In this specific instance, I'm strengthening the left side. I'm going to cross the right leg over to give that left leg resistance, and I'm going to continually invert that left ankle against the resistance in order to activate and strengthen the posterior tibialis. By strengthening all 3 of these, you will be sure to keep that ankle and foot nice and stable. So once you're done with the 3-way ankle, there are a couple other things you can do. Heel raises are super important because they help accentuate the heel-toe motion when you're walking or running. If you have no strength in that part of your walk or run, your foot is going to be very unstable and cause secondary injuries. Let's go ahead and do the heel raise. We're going to start with our feet in parallel. We're going to lift from the heel up to the ball of the foot, and we're going to lower nice and slow. And then we're going to do single leg heel raises. Don't forget to stretch your calves. The way that I like to stretch my calves is I find a step. You're going to hang off the edge of the stair, let your heel drop down, bend the opposite knee, putting weight through the base foot as you let the opposite heel drop down to get a nice calf stretch. Moving on to an advanced exercise. This one helps with balance and stability and connecting that glute strength to the ankle and foot stability. Before you do this exercise, make sure you have a good baseline of balance. Now that you've seen all the foot and ankle strengthening exercises, you should be able to keep that ankle and foot nice and healthy. Don't forget the other 2, knee and hip. All are super important in preventing injuries. Try them all out. I really hope you learned a lot on how to treat and prevent the top 3 lower body injuries. Don't leave them out of your routine because you don't want a setback.
I mean, I don't.
We're gonna go ahead and end the video. Don't forget, check the description. I gave you the details of each specific exercise. If you like this video, don't forget to give me that thumbs up and subscribe so that you get that bell notification every time there's a new video. Follow my Instagram. Most importantly, don't forget, stay hyped.